everyone. I wanted to go through some of the book stuff with you guys because some people were still having trouble navigating, and I wanted to make sure everybody is on board with being able to access their textbook for their learning. So I'm going to go into, well, first I got to be in our AP classroom, don't I? So I'm going to go into our AP classroom, click on lesson modules. And then up here in the link to Class Hub is where you'll access your textbook now that most of you are registered. And you'll click your textbook link and it'll take you to the Pearson sign in website. So you're just going to go ahead and click sign in. And then it's going to ask you for your username and password. And then you'll click sign in again. And that's going to take you to your courses. And if you only have this book in Pearson, you should just see AP Biology right here and you'll click on that. All right, so question number 1 was asking you to go on to the study area button on the top right of the page. And I'm not sure exactly why it says that. I believe they've moved things around, but if you look here on your list of menu options here on the left, this says Pearson eText, this says study area. So if you click on study area and then launch study area, that'll take you to the study area. And then the rest of the question says click on chapter guide and use the drop down to change the chapter to chapter 3. So we're going to click on chapter guide, use the drop down to pick chapter 3. You have to click go to get it to change. And then it says to click practice tests and take that test, and then you would put your score. That's just a way to kind of see where you guys are at. We're starting with chemistry of water, and so that is why we picked that chapter. I wasn't expecting you guys to do really well on that. I know we still have, brains that are on quarantine, so it's gonna take some time for us to kind of get into groove of things again. But it helps me to know exactly, where we are at least a little bit. Okay. Now it says to open eText. So you can open eText from here, and you could have also opened it from the previous page, but if you click at eText here and says open, it'll take you to the eText. And I found that the first time it takes a bit. It isn't instantaneous, but I found that the more times that you access it, the quicker it gets. Okay, so here is your eText. The question asked you, how many chapters are in the textbook? Okay, if these messages would stop coming up. Okay, so if you go down here, a lot of people put it had 8 chapters, but look, what does that say? That does not say chapter, that says unit. If you open up the units, then it has the chapters, and if you go all the way down to the last unit and open it up, there are 56 chapters in this textbook. Okay, so you want to be careful that you're reading the question correctly, because this quiz was also, it was a way for you to get to use your book. It was a way for you to pre-test you to see where we are, and it was also a way to kind of gauge how well you are at reading questions, because one of the things that we're going to practice in AP Biology is how to really dissect a question and make sure you're answering all parts of it. It's going to become very, very important, and you'll see why. But this has two, that question number 2 had 2 questions to get together, like what are the chapters, and then it says also to tell me what phylum the spiny-headed worms were in. Okay, and so some people answered the first part and not the second part. Some people answered the second part and not the first part, and that's going to be a big problem when it comes to the AP test. So that's kind of, why that one was put in there like that. But as far as the spiny-headed worms, the clue it gave you, it says use the correct appendix. The appendices are always at the back of a book. They're kind of like the extra stuff it gives you. So if you look at the appendix here, we have answers, periodic tables, comparison of light microscopes. Obviously, that's not it. Classification of life, though, kind of sounds like what we're looking for. So if you click on that, Okay, this is what the appendix looks like, and here is what we're looking for. It says, what phylum do spiny-headed worms belong to? So you needed to kind of look through here until you see spiny-headed worms, and it is actually on the second page of this part of the appendix. And if you go down here to the bottom, it says spiny-headed worms. And so it was this phylum here that it was asking for that should have been the second part of your answer. Okay. All right, let's see, what else did it ask you to do? Okay, so if we close this, it asked you to go to Bioflix and go to Chapter 3, the water transport in plants. So this one brought up a video that you were supposed to watch and then explain or answer the question, what does increases the surface area of roots. And that was root hairs. So a lot of people, most people got it right, some people didn't. I think they were Russian. So you want to make sure that you're slowing down and kind of doing what you're supposed to be doing there. MP3 tutor sections. This was kind of hit or miss. Some people were able to open it, some people were not, and I apologize to those who were not. I am not as well. I did this on my school computer the first time I did it, and it opened it just fine. So I have a call into our instructional technology people to see if we can figure out what this is. I don't know if it's pop-ups. I don't know if it's a browser issue. I don't know, because this is Chrome browser. It should be working. So it's okay if you weren't able to open that. But I'm going to really try hard to make sure that that does open for you guys, because I know a lot of people are auditory learners and like to hear things and listen to things, so that will be helpful. All right, so then the final question was just about vocab. It said to look over here in the remaining buttons that you haven't clicked and to see what might be helpful for you to learn vocab. And there's a couple of things. First, the glossary is here. The glossary is set up ABCD so that you can kind of look up the words by their first letter. And then you have this thing called the word study tools. This is also helpful because it gives you things like root words by chapter. Okay, so it tells you what the beginning and the end of certain words mean, so that you can kind of infer a lot of information when you read a word that you may not know, but you know the root word. So we're gonna be doing a lot with that kind of stuff pretty quickly. Key terms are in here, and this is listed by chapter. So if you know you're in chapter 2 and you want to look stuff up, it's all right there. And then we have you have the ability to go to these flashcards, and you can select what chapter you want to study. Say we know we're starting in water and life, and we create the deck, and basically this creates flashcards for you without even having to do anything. It has all of the important words of this chapter, and you can try to define it, and then you can flip it to check your answer. And then you go to the next one, flip it, check your answer. Okay, so that is a good way to kind of help you study those key terms. Okay, so that was it for what I wanted you to see as far as the textbook goes. This is going to be really helpful for you, especially, I mean, even with these chapter guides, doing the practice test yourself, doing the self quizzes, all of that stuff is going to be very helpful for you to practice, and that's going to be important. So if you have not been able to get into the textbook, you need to text or email me right away so that I can help you work through any issues and get you into the textbook, because that's going to be important. Okay, so I will talk to you guys all later. Thanks.